Hey, what's up you guys, the Curious Owl here, and today I'm going to be sharing with you guys my September TBR. So September is another month jam-packed of all kinds of things because it is the month of Bookoplothon and there are other things going on. There is a mini Greek Godathon also happening at some point in the month, which I think is going to be just a week-long readathon. We don't really have a lot of information to that as of yet, but that is hosted by Bookish Buddies, and the Bookoplothon is hosted by Becca from Becca and the Books, and I'm very excited. This will be like the second time I think I've participated in the large-scale Bookoplothon, and I'm very excited for it because I think it's going to be a month of pure randomness, which I'm not necessarily, like, not that I'm not a fan of it, but it's not something that I tend to be going for, essentially. I have a ton of books on my TBR that thankfully are actually going to be playing with each other very well, especially with the fact that I do play Wheel of D20 here for my TBR game, so it's all going to be super exciting. But first things first, let's go over the required books I have to read for this month for things like book clubs and reading projects and things like that, that are more so things that I kind of want to fit into the different prompts for either Wheel of D20 or Bookoplothon. So the first one I'm going to talk about is the Royally Booked Book Club pick that is for the Royally Booked Book Club that Princess over at Castle Library hosts, and this month we are going to be reading The Daughter of Dr. Moreau by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. This is also one of my most anticipated reads from 2022, which is also knocking it off of that list. This is basically a continuation retelling of sorts of The Island of Dr. Moreau by H.G. Wells, which was a very popular kind of science fiction story back in like the mid-20th century, and I read The Island of Dr. Moreau when I was in college, and so I'm very excited to see what, if anything, this tends to pull off of, because this is more so following the daughter, who was not originally a character in the original story, and this is also placed, I believe, in Mexico, so that's also going to play into a whole other aspect of this. But this will be my first Sylvia Moreno Garcia as well, so I'm very excited to see what I think about her, since I have a few books of hers that I'm meaning to get to, but I'm very excited to read her newest release to see whether or not her style is something I would be interested in. Next we have Books with Brandy Cheney's book club pick, which is going to be Sword of Kaigan. I am so excited for this because I've heard so many good things about it. It is a bit of a chunkier fantasy from what I understand, but I think I'm going to really like it because I've heard a lot of people say that it's very much a mother story going to save her children of some kind, so I'm all for it. I'm all for strong, tough moms. Next we have the Court of Thorns and Roses read-along series that Princess from Castle Library is also hosting, and this month we are finally going to be reading A Court of Silver Flames, the newest book in the Court of Thorns and Roses series by Sarah J. Maas, and I am so jazzed. I did not think that when I started reading this series I was going to enjoy it by any means, and I've been loving it so far, and especially with how A Court of Frost and Starlight ended up going, I am very excited for this one, since this is dealing more so with Nesta's point of view, and I can't wait to see whether or not she is in some way redeemed, because I've heard a lot of people say that even if you don't really care for Nesta, this book really tends to change your mind in some way about her, and in some way kind of maybe redeems her for some of the things she's done, but I guess we'll have to wait and see what my thoughts are on that one. And then finally, the final book club pick I have is for the Brandon Sanderson read-along, which is for this month to read The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson, starting off our Stormlight Archive read. I am very intimidated by this one. This is over 1,000 pages, and wow, I don't know. I think that I'm gonna enjoy it. I think that this is one of his most popular series of all time, but I'm very nervous because I've also heard it is incredibly heartbreaking once you get to certain points in this book and in the rest of the series. So I'm excited, but I'm also a little nervous, but I think this is gonna turn out to be very interesting. Now, the only thing I need to talk about left is my next Finish Your DNF project. I decided that like once a month I will talk to you guys about what the next Finish or DNF series is going to focus on, and this month it is going to be the Darker Shade of Magic series by V.E. Schwab. I currently own myself the first book, and the other two books I had borrowed from my local library, but yes, I am finally going to be reading this series. I've been meaning to for a long time, and I'm excited to see how this is going to go, only because V.E. Schwab's writing in the past has been either a 3 or a 4 star. I have only read 2 books of hers. The first one was the first book in the Monsters of Verity duology, which was This Savage Song. I read this a few years ago and it was a 3 star for me. It was pretty okay. And then more recently, back in May, I read Gallant, which was her newest release. That was one of my most anticipated of 2022 books, and I gave that one 4 stars. So she's pretty much like an author that I would probably continue reading and seeing whether or not I like more of her books. But this is the first series I'm going to actually finish of hers, and I'm very excited, which includes A Darker Shade of Magic, A Gathering of Shadows, and A Conjuring of Light. I have heard that this is her more popular and one of her best series that she's ever created, so I am excited to see what I think of it. And it is something that I've been meaning to get into, with the fact that this is kind of a portal fantasy, and there's different aspects of the world, like there's different versions of London, kind of parallel universe-like. So hopefully we'll see if this ends up being something I enjoy. This is going to basically be playing in the background of a lot of my reading for this month. I will be reading this kind of after I get to my reading goals each day, and we'll kind of basically see if I get through the entire series or if I'm just going to DNF at a certain point and never pick up the rest of it. Now, there are a couple of other books I am planning on reading, but they are more so things that were just kind of fitting for prompts for Wheel of D20 and for Bookoplothon. So with that being said, let's go ahead and play our TBR games. So first of which being the Wheel of D20, my TBR game, and let's see what our 4 prompts for this month are, since I did complete all of my reads for August. Hey guys, so we are going to be here spinning the 4 prompts that we're going to get for September. I'm very excited for this because this is going to be really interesting with Bookoplothon. I hope that we're going to get some prompts that are going to work well with the stuff that we got with the Bookoplothon rules, which I will show later, but oh boy, this is going to be an interesting one. But without further ado, let's go ahead and do our first spin for September. And we get, yay! It's a me pick! That means I get to pick 2 books that either I'm really excited for or whatever. Like, I just get to pick whichever books I want to go up against each other, which, ooh, this is going to be fun because I have a lot of books that I am already planning on that are part of my set TBR, so literally any of them will work for this, and it doesn't matter which one's going to win because they're going to be on this TBR, which is very exciting. Okay, we're going to go ahead and do spin number 2 now. And we get an adaptation. So this has to be a book that has some kind of an adaptation, either movie, TV show, video games, something along those lines. Okay, and next we're going to do spin number 3. We get a book with 2 or more authors. Okay, so I'm gonna have to do some digging around for that one because I don't think I have too many books that are by multiple authors, but I'm sure I could find something. So let's go ahead and do our final spin for September. Oh, I was wondering if we were gonna get another bookish game involved. So for the final prompt, we have to play a quick round of Game of the Books, which is the game that Bookish Buddies, or Esme from Bookish Buddies, has for their TBR game. It's very simple. There's a board, roll a d20, and then whatever space you land on, you get a certain card for that. So this is going to be interesting because this is going to be the only prompt from a game, whereas last month we had 3 prompts from a game. So let's go ahead and see what we end up getting. Okay, so for this we're going to actually use the Desertathon board that Bookish Buddies created for Desertathon. It is one of the readathons that she hosts, and this is pretty similar actually to her Game of the Books board. It's pretty much the same layout, except the prompts I think are slightly different, and there are different color spaces for different teams and stuff like that, but we're not going to worry about that. We're going to go ahead and do just kind of play with this board. It works the best. It's the only thing right now that is available from Bookish Buddies because they don't have a set board for their TBR game, but this is the closest thing we're going to get. So we're going to roll the D20 for this one, and I'll show you guys what I end up getting, but let's go ahead and see what we get. Okay, so the roll we got was a 13. See if I can show that to you. There you go, 13.
So we're going to move to space 13, which is, I think technically this was like a wild card of some kind. So let's go ahead and see what we end up getting. So we're just going to go with card 13 from the Google Drive. So this was technically a wild card spot. So what we're going to do is essentially randomize the prompt by rolling my D4, since there are 4 options per card. And we're going to just see what we end up getting out of these ones. And we rolled a natural 1. It's really hard to see because it's so tiny, but a natural 1. So we're going to go with the orange prompt, which was a book I recently bought.
Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to the first round of the D20 rolls. We're going to first do the first spin that we did from the wheel, which was the Gabby pick. Now for this, I picked 2 of my most anticipated reads I wanted to already read in the month of August, being Babel by R.F. Kuang. I'm so excited for this. You guys have no idea. I have been waiting for this book to come out since R.F. Kuang had released the second book in the Poppy War series, and I can't wait. Like, I've been waiting for this for so long. I need to read it. I already want to read it, but why not just put it on this TBR when I can? The other one is another really anticipated read, which is I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette Mccarty. I did get the Kindle version of both of these actually, but I made sure to get the Kindle version of I'm Glad My Mom Died because it is sold out physically everywhere. It is on back order everywhere. And this, if you don't know, is a memoir that Jeanette Mccarty wrote, basically dictating the story of her going through being a child star with these shows iCarly and Sam and Cat, and the issues that she had, especially when it came to her mother, who was her manager, and the various trauma-related things that she dealt with over the course of her teenage years. And it's going to be definitely a very heartbreaking one. I have heard everybody say that it is so awful to read about what happened to her because it's just very unfair to see what ended up happening to this poor woman. But we're going to go ahead and do our first roll, so let's see what we end up getting. And we got a 4. So, don't know if you can see that. There it is. So that means we are actually going to end up going with I'm Glad My Mom Died for this one, which is fine. I'm happy with that. I just kind of wished maybe Babel would get on this one, but either way I was going to read both of these, so it's not like that big of a deal. But for the prompt of the Gabby pick, I'm Glad My Mom Died is the winner. Alright, so the next round we have is the Adaptation Round. So for this I picked 2 books that are technically adaptations in themselves because they are adaptations and extensions of already established stories in a sense. But the first one that I'm most excited for is the Long Live the Pumpkin Queen book by Shay Earnshaw. This is a new release that just came out in August, and this is essentially the continuation of the story of The Nightmare Before Christmas, following very specifically Sally's journey after becoming the Pumpkin Queen. So this is kind of similar in the sense where there was the Hocus Pocus sequel that came out I think in 2020 or 2019, one of the two, but this is similar in that sense where this is continuing a story that is already established through a movie. Now the second one's a little different. For those of you that might be Ice Nine Kill fans, this is the Inked in Blood graphic novel that Spencer Charnas, the lead singer of Ice Nine Kills, helped create. This is basically an adaptation of all of the music videos that they have done for one of their albums. I think it is The Silver Scream, that's what it is. So this is basically a comic book graphic novel adaptation of the Silver Scream story, which is very exciting. This is actually an autographed copy. I got to meet Spencer at a convention last summer, if I can show that properly to you, but basically he says death is only the beginning, and it is personalized, so very, very excited to be able to read this if I can, but this is lower on my priority compared to Long Live the Pumpkin Queen, because Long Live the Pumpkin Queen was something I was already going to try to read this month, so I would really like to be able just to throw that on here. But let's go ahead and roll to see what we end up getting. And we got a 16 that time. There we go. So that means I do get to use Long Live the Pumpkin Queen as my pick for the adaptation for this month. Okay, next we have a book that is by 2 or more authors. The first one that I'm really excited for that I would like to read more so than the other is the Critical Role Vox Machina Origins 3 Issue 2. This is the second issue in the 3rd rendition, essentially, or 3rd volume that there will be of the origin stories of Vox Machina. I read the first issue of this in August, and it's just a very quick read. It's like 20 pages, very easy to fly through, so this is more kind of what I would like. Plus, I love my Critical Role, as you guys know. The other one, though, is What If It's Us by Becky Albertalli and Adam Silvera. This is something I've been wanting to read for a while, but kind of needed a good enough reason to, because I have the first one on Kindle and the second one physically, so I might as well at least give it a try if I can. But we're going to go ahead and see which of these ends up being the winner for this month. And that time we got a 19. That means I will be using the Critical Role comic book, which will be perfect, nice, easy way to start off the month with a very quick comic. Okay, and finally we have the last round, which is the recently bought pick. For this, I'm not necessarily looking for either to win more than the other because both of these are for different book clubs, but I do have The Daughter of Dr. Moreau by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. This is a new release and is one of my most anticipated reads of the year. This is the Royally Booked Book Club pick for the month of September with Princess from Castle Library, so this will kill multiple birds with one stone if I can get it on this month, but I was hoping to get to it at least some point this year, if not this month. The other one is going to be The Sword of Kaigan, which is Brandy's book club pick for her membership group. This is something I'm also very interested in, have been meaning to read for a long time, and either way, both of these are going to get read this month because they're for their respective book clubs, so no matter which one of these ends up winning for this round, I'll be happy. But let's go ahead and see which one ends up winning. 8. So by that logic, because of placement, that means The Daughter of Dr. Moreau is going to be the winner for this round, which is exciting. Again, both of these are going to be read this month, so it's not that big of a deal, but this is the one that will be in my Wheel of D20 vlog for September. So the first spin we ended up getting was a Gabby pick, and I had pitted up Babel by R.F. Kuang, one of my most anticipated reads for the year, up against I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette Mccarty, another anticipated read for this year, but wasn't like in my top 22 for the year, and I'm Glad My Mom Died ended up being the winner for that round. I am very excited to read this, but I do feel like this is going to be a bit of a hard one because of the fact that having grown up with Jeanette Mccarty myself, with iCarly and Sam and Cat and all that stuff, I am a little scared to read what she has to say, but I have heard that this is a bit of a lighter tone. It's very much a kind of darker humor-esque. Not that she necessarily plays down anything that happened, but I know that I'm gonna get probably very angry with this because I've heard a lot of people say that, like, especially when it comes to hearing about what her mom did to her growing up, it's gonna probably make me very angry. So the next spin I ended up having was an adaptation, and I ended up hitting up Long Live the Pumpkin Queen by Shay Earnshaw, the story that basically takes place after the events of Nightmare Before Christmas, up against Inked in Blood, a graphic novel that was inspired by the band Ice Nine Kills' albums, basically, more particularly the Silver Scream. Long Live the Pumpkin Queen ended up winning for this one. I am very excited for this because, again, another kind of anticipated read, but wasn't like in my top 22 because I didn't know this was coming out until probably like a couple of months ago, and I cannot wait to see how this is. I am a little nervous though because I hope that this doesn't stray too far from the character of Sally, since this is mostly her book, but I don't know, I like Shay Earnshaw's writing. I've liked it in the past, so I think I'm gonna at least like that, and hopefully this ends up being something I enjoy. The spin I had was a book with 2 or more authors, and so I pitted up What If It's Us by Becky Albertalli and Adam Silvera, and I pitted that up against the Critical Role Vox Machina Volume 3 Issue 2, which is a comic book basically involving characters of the Vox Machina D&D campaign before the actual campaign had actually started. The Critical Role comic book ended up winning this one. Very excited. I love this story so much, and it's a very short piece, so it's easy to crank out like at the very beginning of the month and call it good. Finally, the last spin was my recently bought spin, which I pitted up Sword of Kaigan up against The Daughter of Dr. Moreau because I bought these both very recently. This one a little bit less recently than Sword of Kaigan, but still this one was within like the last like 3 months. The Daughter of Dr. Moreau ended up winning this one, so not only do I get to place this in for Princess's Royally Booked Book Club, but it now is a part of my actual Wheel of D20 TBR, so it definitely will be done this month. And now let's move over to the Bookoplathon rolls and see how that ended up going. Alright, so hello everybody, welcome to the Bookoplathon board. We have got the full board here. I just printed out the version that Becca had placed on the Google Drive for this, and hopefully it is showing correctly to you guys. Otherwise it looks mirrored, maybe, I don't quite know, but either way, we have the ghost space down here, so we're going to be going down this way in terms of the board. But I have my 2 6-sided die, Yes, they are different colors because these are from 2 different dice sets. Do not judge me for that. Leave me alone. My chance cards here, which these I basically had picked from a wheel of lower priority books that I had already. So if I end up drawing these, one of my lower priority books from my lower priority wheel may come up. And then I also have my community shelf cards, which the prompts I pulled for these ones were prompts that are on my wheel of D20 currently, excluding any other TBR games that there would be. And I also made sure to pick prompts that were not already on the board in some capacity. So figured this was the best thing to do, but I've got both my sets of cards here. I also have my little red pawn here that I'm going to place on the go spot, as that is where everybody starts off their game. So let's go ahead and do our first roll, which is an 8. And that is a book with pattern and text on the cover. To roll number 2. And I need to re-roll that second one, but we have a 6 and a 3, so we have 9. And that is a community shelf card. So I have not shuffled these yet, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that really quick. So a reminder, these are gonna be prompts that are going to help me with picking what the book is. And apparently one is just gonna flip out on me, which is an LGBTQ IAP plus author or characters. Okay, now that we've moved on to the other side of the board, we're gonna turn that. And we get a double, so that means I will have to pick another book. Great, but we got an 8 that time, which is autumn. So a book that has autumn vibes. All right, roll number 4 is 7 with our 3 here. And that is a book in third person. I cannot believe that at this point I already am almost a full round through the board. That's nuts. I did not think that was gonna happen. But on to roll number 5, which is a 7. And that is highest rated on my TBR. And for now, what will hopefully be my final roll for Bookoplothon is a 10. So I managed to scoot away from doing another double, but 10 lands us on buildings. So a book that has a building on the cover. So the first roll I ended up getting was a book with pattern or text on the cover, and for this I ended up going with A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas because of the pattern that is in the background behind the text, and also the text plays a big part in the overall cover. Like, it covers most, if not more than half of the cover itself. The prompt I ended up getting was an LGBTQ IAP plus book, which I ended up going with the Critical Role Vox Machina Volume 3 Issue 2, because one of our characters in this campaign, in this world, is actually bisexual, and that is Vaxelden. The next roll I ended up getting was a book that was inspired by autumn, and for that I am going with Long Live the Pumpkin Queen by Shay Earnshaw, because this obviously is a very popular Halloween movie. It's a Halloween and Christmas movie, honestly. And like I said, it's a continuation of the original story of Nightmare Before Christmas. What I ended up getting was a book that was in third person, and for this I am putting The Daughter of Dr. Moreau on here because of the fact that I did look at some of the story and it is told, at least in some capacity, in third person. I don't know if all of the perspectives that are involved with this are in third person, but at least one of them is. What I got was for highest rated, and I still haven't really updated my Goodreads with all of my library. I don't think I ever will because it's gonna take way too much time for me that I don't have. So I did basically, though, go through all of the books I had already wanted to read this month in terms of like book clubs and things that I was actually interested in reading, and figured out what was the highest rated. It ended up being, not surprisingly, because of one, how new this is, and two, the fact that it is more of a memoir. I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette Mccarty was the highest rated with I think a 4.72 if I'm not mistaken. And that could have changed from when I looked at it to now, but when I looked at it initially, this was the highest rated of the books I had planned for this month. And finally, the sixth roll I had, because I had a double somewhere in there, I don't remember where because I filmed this stuff after filming the Bookoplothon and Wheel of D20 stuff, was a book with buildings on the cover. And for this, I finally managed to get babble onto my TBR for this month. I'm so excited. I was really hoping it either would get for Wheel of D20 or for Bookoplothon, and even if it didn't, I was going to try to read it in this month because of the fact it just got released here on the August 23rd. I'm so excited. I've heard so many good things about this, and I'm chomping at the bit. I can't wait. But this is another very chunky book. We got quite a few chunky books and quite a few smaller ones, so hopefully this will all balance out by the end of it. Now again, there is a mini Greek Godathon happening at some point in September. I don't know when that's gonna be. We haven't had any of that information released as of yet, but hopefully some of the books I have on my TBR already will hopefully work for that. I really hope I don't have to grab too many more because that is gonna be a lot. I don't even know necessarily what we're gonna be seeing in terms of prompts because like I said, nothing's been revealed as of today, which is August 27th. So hopefully soon we'll see something from that, but I have no idea. But that is it for my September TBR. It is mostly ebooks this month, which is kind of exciting because I do have a lot of ebooks that I've purchased recently that I would like to start getting through and get through my Kindle library, and I have a handful of physical books that I would like to get to as well. But let me know what you guys are going to be reading in September, especially if you are going to be participating in Bookoplothon. I would really love to hear what you guys have got. If you've read any of these books, what you thought of them. If you guys did enjoy this video, please do give it a big thumbs up. And if you haven't already and you'd like to be and would like to see more content like this, go ahead and hit that button down below and subscribe to become an ally in our flock. And I will see all of you guys in my next video. Bye guys!